Boom! Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Escape Pod. On today's episode, we're going to be touching upon a subject that is kind of controversial, just because of people's perception and opinion on it, and it's because how the government has portrayed it as big business. But we're talking about climate change, and I know there's two sides of the fence here because there's some that are on Al Gore's side, and there's some that think like Donald Trump that think this is just garbage. But Sean, what's your thoughts on climate change?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much on both sides. I'm just gonna narrow it down, or we'll be here forever. I'll start with the Trumps, the Republicans, or whoever it is on that side. It doesn't have to be only Republicans or Trump. People who don't believe in climate change, and I will say this. The Earth has been going through climate changes naturally forever. Period. Forever. No matter what. I just think, and I understand their side of it. I get it. You know, the government, you know, you said it earlier, everything is for big business. You know, they're using it, sometimes they're marketing it wrong. They're labeling it wrong. You know, and what's funny is that when you do see both sides argue this out, they both agree on pollution, though. That's what's crazy. So it's just like, then get rid of the climate change argument and just stick with what makes sense to both sides. Pollution. Nobody wants to drink chemically, polluted water. I mean, or anything like that. I mean, shit, we are in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And if I'm not mistaken, the Atlantic Ocean has their own, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll just stick with the Pacific Ocean. There's a fucking garbage patch over there.
We've all heard about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Is it what we think it is?
So the Great Pacific Garbage Patch really is a misnomer. It's not a patch. It's not a mass. It's nothing you can see from space. All these things once heard. But in fact, it's just a giant soup, a gyre, a whirlpool of plastic in the ocean at various depths. So it's not as if you can stand on this garbage patch. It's not an island of garbage.
Just to the north of these islands lies a convergence zone of currents that cause plastics to accumulate in that area. When I went through it on my own sailboat, I saw lots of things floating in the water. A large derelict fishing net, a ghost net, or I might see a bottle or a crate. And then also you have stuff like sticks and wood also collecting in this garbage patch. Even if the debris isn't a floating mat of trash, even if it's more dispersed than that, it can still hold an enormous amount of plastic.
The Great Pacific Garbage Patch measures 1.6 million square kilometers. That is 3 times the size of France. The patch contains 1.8 trillion pieces of plastic, which equals 250 pieces for every human in the world. The total mass amounts to 80,000 tons, 4 to 16 times more than previous estimates. 92% of this mass is made up of the larger objects, all of which are destined to fragment into dangerous microplastics over the next few decades.
I mean, streams are being polluted. The air is polluted. You know, if you don't believe that your own air is polluted, something's wrong. You can just look at India and China to see how bad it can get, and it will get that. And that's true, I know some people will say cattle, of course, and then our cars and so forth. That's why we're trying to go green. And yes, it is a new industry, which does frown upon, people can look at it and go, oh, wow, now we're making money off of that. We traded for oil for that. And now they're finding problems with, these battery powered cars because that's not safe for the environment, So you have pollution of the water, the air, and the soil, and that is obvious. And I think they should just focus on that. But I do understand that it is true that the world changes. Can we hurt Mother Earth? No, I don't think so. Mother Earth has been here, Gaia, call it whatever you want, Earth has been here from day one and will be here when we're gone. And different species have had their chance. What I will say is that I believe, and it doesn't mean I'm right, that every species, dominant species, multi-cell organism has its time. And I do believe when we're polluting, we're just limiting our time. That's what I'm getting. That's what I think. That's all. I don't want to get into the climate change thing. I know global temperatures are rising. Here's some statistics, small stuff off of NASA, right? And I don't know if you want to say NASA is the authority on these things. I thought this was supposed to be in space, right? But yeah, like the temperature has risen about 1.62 degrees Fahrenheit since the late 19th century, and it's continuing to. I think that's the big thing that the other side is trying to state, more of the left, I guess, right? Is that the cycle is getting shorter and shorter. It's increasing more and more every time. Oceans have absorbed much more of the increased heat from top 700 meters of the ocean, showing warming of more than 0.4 degrees Fahrenheit since 1969. The shrinking of the ice sheets, of course, sea levels rising 8 inches in the last century, and the rate in the last 2 decades, however, has nearly doubled. So they're just seeing this increase, and that's all I'm going to say. There's so much more, and there's no need, of course, the ice caps melting and so forth.
There are different types of human-made air pollution. When we burn fossil fuels to produce energy, they release greenhouse gases into the air. These emissions, such as carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and fluorinated gases, trap heat from the sun in Earth's atmosphere, leading to a rise in global temperatures. This creates a cycle where air pollution contributes to climate change, and climate change creates higher temperatures. In turn, higher temperatures intensify some types of air pollution. For example, climate change increases smog because it forms in the presence of high heat and increased levels of ultraviolet radiation. More frequent extreme weather, such as flooding, contributes to damp conditions and therefore to a rise in mold. Warmer weather also leads to longer pollen seasons and therefore more pollen production.
Some people believe that's just nature. Some people believe it's because of the emissions we're doing, we're adding to it, that it's making it hotter. Either way, climate's changing. We have ice ages, we have all these, we have seasons. So I get it. But I do see that, and it's just evidence, obvious proof that humans are adding pollution to whatever element or environment we are. I think that's what they need to focus on. I know it gets really touchy with this climate change. That's why I try to steer away from it and go, who cares? The world is changing its climate all the time. Let's just stick with what humans are doing. And I think everybody can agree, and you don't want to be breathing in toxic chemicals. You don't want to be drinking your trash and shit. You don't want to be growing your food in toxic soil. And I think they should just focus on that. What do you think?
For me, it's not the problem that needs to be identified. It's the approach to build awareness. That's the problem I'm having. Because the problem we all know is pollution. And like how you said, we just need to label it for what it is. Right now, this is not an issue of climate change. This is an issue of pollution. And at the end of the day, if you just look at science itself, chemicals have to be balanced in order for life to be available, right? In order for us to be living. And one thing that probably has not been taken into account on a larger scope by people who don't understand this is that when you have an increase in population, you're going to have an increase in pollution. Because more people are using, and as the decades go by, more people are using without awareness. They don't understand what's causing what to this earth. Now, the reason why I say it's not the problem, it's the approach. The approach is the politicians that are backing this because, Al Gore comes out. Next thing you know, we have this sweeping movement of climate change products, things to protect the environment. And truth be told, a lot of these companies were just taking advantage of the gimmick, turning it into a gimmick, I should say, because they want to make money. They want to make profit, and they're going to profit off people's desperation. Welcome to business. That's what happens. But the problem is it takes away from the real issue. If you guys ever seen The Day After Tomorrow, which is it's a great film, that's going to give you a good indication of possibly what's going to happen, right? If the chemicals, what's up?
Emmy Rossum has nothing to do with that.
Who? fabulous actress. Love the way she acts her.
She knows her craft.
She delivers well. but no, you guys watch
I can see an order going into McCullum soon.
But the thing is, day after tomorrow, if the chemicals are not in balance, it gets hotter. They're absolutely correct about cold water mixing into the salt water and all this other crazy shit. And granted, I'm not a scientist, but if you research enough stuff, you'll understand that chemical imbalance fucks everything up, even inside personally, right? As a psychologist, right? You start to understand that shit, if you're not chemically balanced, something's wrong with you. But it's just who's backing it and who's saying what, and Trump's downplaying, because I sometimes think that he might be downplaying it because he knows there is a problem, but he doesn't give a fuck about the problem because the politicians don't give a fuck about the problem.
It's a hoax. I mean, it's a money-making industry, okay?
That has nothing to do with the actual green movement, which is money in their pockets, and which we'll save for another topic later on. But things need to get done. Look, Jason Momoa, he's backing up this, I think I'm saying it wrong, but Malunalu company, I think, whatever it is. But if you guys could look it up, Jason Momoa is running this thing with getting rid of plastic bottles and trying to, save the earth that way too. And I'm only saying that because Sean was talking about, was it that beach or that island where there's nothing but plastic? And it's killing the sea life. It's killing the organic life underwater. And it's polluting because plastic takes, how long does plastic take for it to disintegrate?
Shit, I forget. Forever. And we're eating that shit in the fish and stuff.
Exactly. Tony Robbins talks about it. Eating too much iron from the fish almost killed him. So we got to think about that. And us Hawaiians from Hawaii, we love poke. We love eating raw fish. Japanese eating raw fish. But read up on what happened when Japan had that earthquake and had that tsunami and had that nuclear meltdown. Went into the water, went into the fish. You guys got to think about all this. So it's about education, and I'm going to leave it at that. What the politicians need to do is less politicking, and environmentalist groups need to do less bitching, and they need to start putting out more awareness, more understanding, more images to change people's perception, because all it is marketing. You change how people view things, and they see it enough, they'll change their thinking. You're not going to change everybody, but if you can change a majority portion of the population's thinking, you're well on your way to go. But we'll dive more into that in another topic or in another day. But if you guys got any other questions, Sean, you want to add anything else to this?
Good, man. Good.
Yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Hopefully raised a little bit of awareness or just some insight onto possibly looking into climate change a little bit further, or pollution. Leave us a comment, ask us a question, see if we want to dive into anything further. Please, if you're going to write us a question or give us some insight, make sure it's backed up with some sort of stance. Insight or fact. But until next time, thank you guys for joining us on the Escape Pod, and we'll see you when we see you.
Peace.